Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I am showcasing the June 2019 Build-A-Flower Crocus, and I'm so excited to share what inspired this Kaleidoscope card. Funny story, when I was first asked about contributing a guest design for the June 2019 flower, I was like, great, what's a crocus? So Google told me the crocus genus is a bulb perennial in the same family of irises. The stigmas of the species Crocus sativus is where saffron comes from, the most expensive spice by weight. Now, you won't have to pay nearly as much for this Build-A-Flower set. In fact, the Build-A-Flower monthly subscription guarantees your spot for the next stamp and die set, and most times you can find this at a discounted rate. Otherwise, the stamp and die set are offered at full retail price, and the stock is not guaranteed for that particular flower. Anyway, back to card making. As I was looking for inspiration for this beautiful flower, for some reason the long, narrow monocot leaves kept reminding me of this kaleidoscope I had when I was a kid. It contained these thin glass, almost like sprinkles. After days of coming up with the design, I wanted to see if I could replicate a top-down arrangement of flowers that was also symmetrical. So here's how I made that happen. I first grabbed my Sogatoa stamp set from Altenew. In this set, I used 2 of the equilateral triangles to make 2 sizes of hexagons. Now, I really only needed 1 of these, but I made 2 sizes just in case I did need the other one. So if you're wondering why I didn't just grab my steel hexagon dies, that's a great question. It's because I don't have any. So I had to be creative by stamping the triangles into a hexagon shape and then just simply cutting it out. I think by having less, you see creative ways of using the materials you already have. I set these 2 hexagons aside and moved on to stamping my flowers. So I unintentionally followed the suggested ink swatches on the back of the stamp packaging for the flowers and the center of the flower. There was an ink sale on the Altenew Mini Ink Cubes, and I went a little crazy with getting more of these ink pads. The only substitution I really made was using the Tropical Forest family of greens instead of the Green Valley family of inks. I really enjoyed the warmth of the Tropical Forest set as opposed to the neutral green that I was getting from the Green Valley family of inks. And honestly, after this point, it's just following the directions on the back of the stamp packaging and it's all stamping. I used my Mini Misty to ink up my panel starting from my lightest layer to the darkest. I rubbed my palm on the surface of the photopolymer stamp until I felt the stamp was no longer sticky before taking my ink pad to it. Then I inked up a layer, rotated my panel, and inked up the same layer again to get 2 flowers in one go. I did have to grab a second panel to ink up a 3rd flower. I followed the layering directions included with the stamp packaging until the flower was complete. I did the same thing with the leaves. I stamped enough of them to form a cluster surrounding the crocus, following the same direction as the flowers, rotating my panel and adding an additional panel so that I had 3 complete clusters of flowers and leaves. Side note, the monocot group have floral parts in multiples of 3, so I thought this was a fairly natural arrangement as well. So after stamping for what seemed like the entire day, look, I lost sunlight and I had to turn my lamp on. I die cut the flowers and leaves with my Spellbinder's Platinum manual die cutting machine. I find it therapeutic lining up all my images like this. Anyway, I started arranging my flowers with a group of leaves on top of the hexagon I made. I used Glad Press and Seal to protect my whole arrangement and then laid another set of images right on top of my first arrangement to make these exactly the same. I will repeat this one more time and set all 3 of these clusters aside. So here you'll see what I'm going for. This sunburst arrangement of flowers that will perfectly frame my sentiment in the center. Before gluing all of this down with Tombow Mono liquid glue, I did some black ink splattering with Altenew Jet Black ink spray. I'm using the hexagon template as a visual guide to arrange my clusters. I'm trying to find key landmarks on my cluster in relation to the hexagon so that when I lay down the other 2 clusters, they are perfectly mirrored to each other. Are you starting to see where the kaleidoscope is coming from now? I'll keep bringing the hexagon template over and realigning my next cluster until I mirror the placement of the previous arrangement. I temporarily tack down the press and seal to my card base and use it as a hinge so I don't have to lose my place while adding glue, almost like a stamp positioner but for your die cuts. Here is my finished arrangement. I consider this different from wreath stamping because 1, I'm using die cuts, and 2, usually wreath templates only stamp in multiples of 4 since they form nice right angles for your card panel to fit into. So here's my method for making a symmetrical and odd number cluster. To finish this card, I used the Warm and Cozy family of inks from Altenew. I stamped the "You Bring Happiness to My Life" sentiment in the lighter of the two orange inks. I fussy cut the happiness sentiment as well as the other sentiment strips. I added foam squares to the back of all the sentiment elements and used a T-ruler to make sure my sentiment was aligned properly. And that finishes my card for this June 2019 Crocus Build-A-Flower release. Thank you so much to Team Altenew for the invitation to design. I'm really glad I got the opportunity again to join them for another great release. If you are visiting during the giveaway period, make sure you leave a comment over on my blog link below. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. I have affiliate links to most of the products used in this video. For a full listing of materials, please see the blog post link below for sponsored links to the products. As always, I greatly appreciate your support and I hope you have the best day.